David Chatterson served as Canada's ambassador to Saudi Arabia for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. He spent more than 2 years as Ottawa's envoy to the kingdom, and he joins us now from Kelowna, BC. Mr. Ambassador, can you give me a sense of what do you make of the government's current strategy here?
Certainly. I mean, this is a significant move by the kingdom and by Mohammed bin Salman, certainly. It's surprising. It's also, I think, quite revealing, both on the Saudi side and on the Canadian side, and it gives us a couple of lessons.
What do you think those lessons are?
I mean, Mohammed bin Salman is a reformer. He, not necessarily entirely successful in all areas. He's also a very, very active leader, even though he's crown prince, not king. So he has had foreign policy adventures in Yemen, Qatar, with the Lebanese prime minister. He's rounded up elites domestically. This is far more activist than we've seen in Saudi Arabia ever, in fact.
Is this really about
Canada? It's being driven by his need.
Is this really about Canada, or is it a different audience here?
I think there's two parts to it. I think his overriding objective is to reform in a measured way Saudi economy and Saudi society. He's not interested in emulating any kind of Western multicultural society like Canada. It's being driven by domestic demographic and economic imperatives. So he's forcing change in a very traditional society and getting some backlash and seeking, as all politicians do, be they kings or not, to maintain support. So he's using this opportunity, this disagreement with Canada, as a message to the world, to build some support domestically and to forestall, in my view, criticism from other like-minded countries.
I'm interested to think what you make of the messages that were sent out by both the United States State Department and the UK today. Reading between the diplomatic speak, it didn't seem to be as though those countries were saying, "Way to go, Canada, we got your back."
Yes. The hard truth here is that the world is not waiting for Canada to preach to them or to criticize them. That's not really what most countries do. Most countries engage in a dialogue. They work in a very strategic manner. They work with like-minded countries. But issuing critical tweets is typically not the best way to build a dialogue. The second half of that is Saudi Arabia is a G20 country with a growing economy, a very young demographic, and a market that's extremely interesting to countries like the US, the UK, France, South Korea, China, many European countries. They're there to do business, and that's where they see the opportunities.
Would you have done this differently as opposed to the tweet?
Well, in my view, in my humble opinion, the purpose of foreign policy is to advance Canadian interests. Put simply, that's it. That's what we're trying to do. So when I heard about the tweet, my question was, well, what's our objective here? Was it to mitigate the circumstances of Badawi, in which case we failed? Was it to influence the broader direction of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Again, I don't think we've done that. Have we advanced Canadian interests? Definitely not. So my suggestion would have been to approach these kinds of issues in a much more professional, much more respectful manner, underlying an understanding of our counterpart in the kingdom.
I certainly do appreciate your insight. We have to let you go there, Mr. Chatterson.
Okay, just one last thing. I think the biggest cost of all of this is the education side. We have an opportunity to influence and encourage change in the kingdom through education. We've been doing that. That's a missed opportunity.
Now all those students are going elsewhere. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Chatterson.